You think a bullet is what kills you in the wasteland. Think again, it's a cut on your hand, a scratch from rusted metal, the splinter that festers and turns your arm black with infection. In a world without hospitals, without pharmacies, without the sterile glow of civilization, a single wound becomes a death sentence. But here is what they never told you in school. The same fungus rotting your last loaf of bread might be the only thing standing between you and sepsis. This is the penicillin protocol. This is survival science at its most desperate. And this is knowledge that could save your life when everything else has failed. Picture this. The grid's been down for months. The cities are husks of broken glass and burnt-out cars. You've been scavenging through the ruins, cutting yourself on twisted metal, wading through water contaminated with things you don't want to think about. Your immune system is shot. Malnutrition has made you weak. And then it happens. A deep gash across your forearm from a jagged edge of aluminum siding. You wrap it in dirty cloth because that's all you have. 3 days later, red streaks are crawling up toward your elbow. Your skin is hot. The wound is leaking pus that smells like decay. You know what this is. Blood poisoning. Septicemia. Without antibiotics, you have maybe a week before your organs start shutting down. Maybe less. In the old world, you'd walk into a clinic. They'd hand you a bottle of pills, amoxicillin, doxycycline. Problem solved. But that world is gone. The pharmacies were looted in the first 72 hours. The hospitals are mass graves. Every pill, every vial, every last strip of antibiotic ointment has been consumed or expired or hoarded by people who thought they could stockpile their way to immortality. They couldn't. And now you re-alone with an infected wound and the cold certainty that your body is turning against you. This is where most people give up. This is where you dig deeper. You remember something, a story from before. How penicillin, the drug that changed human history, came from mold. Not some high-tech laboratory synthesis, just fungus. The same blue-green fuzz that grows on forgotten bread, on rotting fruit, on any organic matter left too long in the damp and dark. Alexander Fleming didn't invent penicillin. He discovered it. He watched it kill bacteria in a petri dish and realized that nature had already solved the problem. The fungus, Penicillium, wages chemical warfare against bacteria. It produces a compound that shreds bacterial cell walls, that stops them from reproducing, that turns a lethal infection into nothing more than dead microbes flushed from your system. And you can make it, not in a lab, not with expensive equipment, right here, right now, with nothing but salvaged junk and desperate ingenuity. Here's the science. Penicillium mold secretes penicillin as a defense mechanism. When bacteria try to invade the mold's territory, the penicillin attacks the peptidoglycan layer in their cell walls. Without that structural support, the bacteria burst from their own internal pressure. They die. The mold survives. This is nature's antibiotic, and it's growing all around you in the ruins. On stale bread, on spoiled cheese, on damp wood and rotting vegetation. The problem is concentration and contamination. The mold produces penicillin in tiny amounts, mixed with all kinds of other fungal metabolites, some of which could poison you faster than the infection. You need to isolate it. You need to extract it. You need to turn rot into medicine. Start with the mold itself. Find bread that's been sitting in a dark, humid place. Not just any mold. You're looking for blue-green colonies. Penicillium notatum or Penicillium chrysogenum if you're lucky, though you won't know for sure without a microscope. Avoid black mold, pink mold, anything fuzzy and white. Those could be aspergillus or rhizopus or any number of fungi that produce toxins instead of antibiotics. The blue-green mold is your target. Scrape it off carefully. You need a lot of it. Handfuls. Pack it into a container. An old glass jar. A metal can. Anything you can seal. Now you need to grow it. Penicillium loves sugar and moisture. Find stale bread, crush it into crumbs, mix it with water and a little sugar if you have any. Honey works. Even fruit juice. Spread this mixture thin in a shallow container. Introduce your mold spores. Seal it loosely so air can circulate but contaminants stay out. Store it somewhere dark and warm, not hot. Around room temperature. 70 degrees if you can manage it. Wait 3 to 5 days. The mold will spread like a blue-green plague across the surface. This is your penicillin factory. This is your salvation growing in real time. When the mold has colonized the entire surface, it's time to extract. Scrape the moldy mass into a clean container. Add cold water, not much, just enough to cover it. Stir it gently. The penicillin is water-soluble. It will leach out of the mold into the liquid. Let it sit for an hour. Then strain it through cloth. An old t-shirt works. Cheesecloth if you scavenge some. You want to remove the solid fungal matter and keep the liquid. This liquid is now your crude penicillin extract. It's cloudy. It smells like rotten fermentation. And it contains the compound that might stop your blood from turning septic. But here's the problem. This extract is weak. It's contaminated with fungal spores, bacterial endotoxins, and a dozen other substances. If you inject it, you could trigger an immune reaction that kills you faster than the infection. You need to filter it. Boil water separately and let it cool. Pour your extract through layers of cloth again, then through sand if you have it. Activated charcoal is even better, the kind you can make from burnt wood and steam. It will absorb some of the impurities. Not all, but enough. What you're left with is a pale yellow liquid. Still contaminated, still dangerous, but concentrated enough to have a chance. Now comes the hard part. Application. You can't drink this. Your stomach acid will destroy the penicillin before it reaches your bloodstream. You need topical application for localized infections or, if you're truly desperate, injection. Topical first. Clean your wound as best you can. Boiled water. Salt if you have it. Let it dry. Then soak a clean cloth in your penicillin extract and bind it directly to the infected area. Change it every 12 hours. Penicillin will absorb through the damaged tissue into the surrounding infection. If the red streaks stop advancing, if the swelling goes down, if your fever breaks, it's working. You've just turned mold into medicine. But if the infection has already spread too far, if it's deep in your bloodstream, topical won't be enough. This is where survival becomes a gamble. You need injection. And injection without sterile needles, without proper dosing, without any way to test for allergic reactions, is a death sentence waiting to happen. But so is sepsis. You scavenge a needle. A sewing needle boiled in water. A safety pin heated until it glows red. You need something hollow if possible. A thin tube from old medical waste. A ballpoint pen refill cleaned and sterilized. You fill it with your extract. You find a vein and you push the plunger. This is the moment where science and desperation collide, where you either survive or learn that some knowledge comes too late. Here's what happens if you fail. The infection doesn't care about your ingenuity. It doesn't care that you tried. If your penicillin extract was too weak, if the strain of bacteria is resistant, if you introduced new contamination during the process, the infection continues. The red streaks become black. Your lymph nodes swell until they're hard as rocks. Fever spikes to 104, 105. Your body starts shutting down systems to conserve energy. Kidneys first, then liver, then heart. You slip into septic shock. And in a world without emergency rooms, without IV antibiotics, without the infrastructure of modern medicine, you die. Not from the wound. From the microscopic war you lost inside your own bloodstream. But if it works, if the penicillin finds the bacteria and destroys them, if your immune system rallies and fights back the infection, if the fever breaks and the red streaks fade and the wound begins to heal clean, you've just performed a miracle with garbage. You've extracted the drug that saved more lives in the 20th century than any other medical advancement, using nothing but mold and desperation. You've proven that survival isn't about strength or weapons or stockpiles. It's about knowledge. It's about understanding that nature has already solved the problems we face. We just have to be smart enough to find the solutions. This is the cost of survival. It's not heroic. It's not clean. It's messy and dangerous and filled with failure. Every extraction you attempt might poison you. Every application might do nothing. But the alternative is giving up. And giving up means dying from something that could have been prevented with a $5 bottle of pills in the old world. The wasteland doesn't care about fairness. It doesn't care that you didn't ask for this. It only cares whether you have the knowledge to outlast it. So remember this. When the pharmacies are empty and the hospitals are tombs, when every cut becomes a potential death sentence, look for the mold. The blue-green fuzz growing in the dark corners of a broken world. It's been waging chemical warfare against bacteria for millions of years. And now, in your darkest hour, it's the only ally you have left. This is the Penicillin Protocol. This is survival science. And this is the knowledge that separates the living from the dead. Because in the end, it's not the strongest who survive. It's not the most armed or the most prepared. It's the ones who understand that life and death are separated by nothing more than rotting bread, and the will to turn decay into hope.